Oh, hello. You found Waypoints, where the Waypoint staff and friends take a break to nerd out and deep dive on the culture, art, and entertainment that's been inspiring and provoking us lately. Gather around the table once again this week. We've got Kato.
Is it the same week?
Yeah.
Well, it's a different week.
No, it's
but this week, once again, we are gathered around the table.
This week, once again, right.
Not to pull the curtain
that
back.
the listener is listening to this at.
This week, once again, we have...
Listener, at home, imagine this. Once again, it is a week later. It's a different day. We're not recording this on the same day as the Iowa primary show.
Wow, those primary...
at this
point,
Bernie won.
Bernie won.
Bernie won.
They're going to say we jinxed it.
Knock on wood, knock on wood, knock on wood.
This isn't...
This is wood.
That's
It's the closest thing we have.
Particle board. You can knock on your head if there's no wood.
I knocked on my head.
Yeah.
cool.
But it's a week later, and we just gathered once again in the Waypoint salon. And we are going
Is that what this is?
This is the Waypoint
I
salon.
called it the Studio New, like the German.
Oh,
New.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I like the Waypoint
You
salon.
mean Naya?
Noya.
Noya?
Noya.
Yeah.
Look, I just see that word written on opening titles of Legend of Galactic Heroes.
Yeah.
I don't actually know how it's
Yeah.
pronounced.
I know how a Japanese person says that word because of the way it's said on. Yeah.
When Rob does his intro,
Yeah.
is it like the way he does it, where
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, hello." Like, have you opened a door?
Yeah.
And it's like, "Welcome."
Yeah.
It's like he's
Like they're sitting
You
at
know
the
that
table with
style
us.
of-
fireplace.
We've been
Have you
waiting
ever
for
seen-
you.
Have you ever seen like
Okay.
the old like Playboy TV show
Yeah.
in the 60s? They were
Sure.
like Hugh Hefner's just like walking around a
Rob-
party. Rob almost almost had a spit take. Oh, hey, I didn't see you. We're going to have a wild time
Who
tonight.
else is on this podcast?
Well, that's
Just gotta cover this one first. Like,
Damn.
it's just Kato
Yeah.
and 4 mystery guests.
Yeah.
You know,
to be unveiled
fair.
over the course of the show. You can figure out who just spoke later in the show. You'll be quizzed. We also have Patrick Klepek
Hello.
and Austin Walker.
And the last person is
Our
a
mystery
is a
guest.
mystery guest.
But I guess we can
Who might
reveal
it
the
be?
mystery now.
A specter is haunting this podcast. A specter
It's Gina
of
Jackson.
communism. It's Gina Jackson. What's up? I've always tried to work that into articles at Kotaku, but I could never make the
Someone
joke
did.
quite work.
Yeah,
And a specter is haunting something, the specter of blank.
Yeah.
But I just never got it. I did manage to get a lot of times. If you Google my name, Kotaku, and not to sound like the guy who sold you weed in high school, but I use that in a lot of leads that no one ever noticed. And that and the opening line of Pride and Prejudice is a truth universally acknowledged that.
Wow, you wound up in the right place.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do?
We're gonna when Emma comes
Emma
out.
comes
we're
out?
doing
Okay.
it.
Oh,
We got
yeah.
to, we got to.
Good.
I got a lot to say about Jane Austen, baby.
Oh, so did we.
So did we.
So did we.
You can still find all of that.
One could argue
Five-star
Jane Austen
runtime.
ended our movie podcast.
but on such a high note,
Yeah.
Yeah, we just,
you know.
yep,
I don't think that it ended so much as it retired to a
we
wonderful.
raised it to the rafters.
Yeah, well, I think it retired to a wonderful home in the countryside to live out its life with its true love.
Much like the main character of Uncut Gems.
Whoa.
God.
So this is going to be, again,
What happened?
Next one.
I do the soundtrack playing. Good. Put the microphone in front of it. There we go.
just imagine the cosmos unfurling in front of you.
Yo, I listened to this on the subway yesterday.
Great soundtrack.
It made me feel like I was flying. It was incredible.
Which is a good feeling to have on the New York subway.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Because chances are you're not moving.
It just made me. I was listening to the Safdie Brothers on the Chapo podcast, which if you don't like the Chapo guys, you can listen to this one. They don't do anything any of the things that annoy a lot of people. They literally just talk about
No
the movie.
old-timey ironic slurs?
No, they don't do that. I mean, Felix is there. Amber is not there. That is the key. But they really annoyed all their hardcore fans because they were like, "This is just a movie podcast," and they were like, "Yep,
Yeah.
we're just talking
We
about
just want to
Uncut
talk
Gems."
about this movie.
And like the way that they talk about New York and the experience of living in New York, and I listened to that music and just on the train on the way home yesterday, I had this really incredible moment of like every single person on this train is a human being with their own story. And
True.
that is like a thing I feel like is deeply implanted into
There's
me by this
There
movie.
is there actually is a
It's
German
not.
word for
It's
that.
fake.
It is?
That it comes. Well, it's
The
not
realization that
because
everyone
it's
has
a great. It's a great word that I use.
Yeah.
It was invented on a site that kind of creates new words. But then
Fucking
it got disseminated in such a way that it has since kind of become a neologism, which is Sonder. Sonder means the profound feeling of realization that everyone, including strangers passing the street, has a life as complex as one's own, which they are constantly living despite one's personal lack of awareness of it. Which I'm glad there is a word for.
Yeah, I see.
now.
I just saw that cited in one of those things going around. I was like, damn, I
It
didn't
is
realize there
from
was a term for that.
it was from the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, which I believe was a Tumblr that was popular like 8 or 9 years ago, and that is.
See, I feel like if I'd seen that citation, I would have cottoned on to the fact that like maybe this isn't real. Like,
yeah,
but it is real. It is a real feeling.
Yes,
it
absolutely.
describes a feeling.
absolutely.
Just like I felt so
I guess it was-
suddenly like a deep sense of community with these people on the train with me. It was like tired old people just living their lives, going home at the end of a long day and feeling as if I owed something to them as just a fellow member of this train, a fellow person on it. There's this really interesting part of the Safdie brothers directed Uncut Gems. They're two brothers, that direct movies. I don't know why siblings go into the movie directing business together so often, but they did also.
Hard.
It
So
is
it's good
really
to have some help.
There you go.
I just can't think of a thing I'd like to do less with my family. Like
That's fair.
I don't want to
Creative
work like a
enterprise.
10-hour day with my fucking dad or some shit. I'd kill him. They were talking about how it actually really changed my perspective. They made a short film that was just about that New York experience of when someone's being aggro on public transit and people just go apeshit and like you need to kick that guy off. And I used to look at that as a sense of like real camaraderie of like the people of the train when like someone's just being aggro for no reason on rush hour and everyone on the train is like, yo, you got to cut that shit out. And they did a short film where one of the scenes included someone going aggro on a bus and they were going to use the real public transit bus and like real people as extras and sort of just see what happened. And one of the softies got really, really aggro and, they had the bus was going through a park, so they had a good 10 minutes where they could get footage. And he was kicked off the bus before they reached the other side of the park. And one of the guys that was in there, one of their plants that had a microphone in their pocket, was in there. And at one point, that guy just said to the people on the bus who had all banded together and were like, really, really going ham on one of the softies. I was like, listen, you guys just want to beat someone up. That's all you want to do. You just want to assault somebody. And like I had this moment of just like, the next time I get frustrated with someone who's being angry on a bus, I'm going to think more about why they're angry and like what is happening there. Because that person is too a person. Like their need to be on public transit is not more than my need to get to my job. It's not. It's just you have to respect all human people. And I think that's a huge part of what I really liked about Uncut Gems. It's like it asks you to respect the humanity of someone that if you met them in real life, you would not.
You would just hate this motherfucker. Can we set up for the listener who is listening to us because they like to hear us talk about movies and culture but has not seen this movie, what this movie is and what is interesting about it?
Yeah, so Uncut Gems is a character study set in it's a period character study set
Heart attack, you mean?
Yeah, it is an extended heart attack feeling type movie. It's a character study of this compulsive gambler and high-end jeweler in the Diamond District, Howie Ratner, played by Adam Sandler. And it is the story of two things. Him trying to desperately get out of a mountain of gambling debts that have crossed into the threshold of being physically dangerous to be carrying around. When the movie opens, he already has collections goons coming from his bookies to collect on what he owes. Concurrently, this scheme he has hatched to bring in an illegal opal, basically stolen. The legality of what is stolen, what is taken from a mine,
Right.
But it is a gem gathered illicitly from a mine in Ethiopia and shipped to him on the sly that if he can sell it at auction, he is convinced will bring in It's the $1 million
$1 million,
score, right? This is the life-changing gem that is going to arrive and not only pay off all his debts, but set him up for life. And these two things are happening concurrently, and it is about the ways they are interconnected, and also about Howie's character flaws that cause him to continue to set spirals of chaos and danger and risk in motion, and the way those decisions ripple out across the people in his life and his family. And it's all done in a very, I think voyeuristic is the wrong word, but cinema verite. You are over Howie's shoulder.
In the room with him.
Yeah, there are a number of
Yesterday-
scenes specifically that have that. I guess we should say we're going to talk spoiler-filled for this.
Yeah.
So
It's
just
really
as a heads up.
Difficult. I mean,
We could have a 20-minute conversation
Yeah, I
without
think
talking
so.
about spoilers.
yes. I
But
mean,
let's
I
go to
think this is the only review you need if you want to get into it before we talk about spoilers. By the time this pod comes out, it will be on Netflix. So just go watch it and come back. Yesterday, Rob Zachney. It's coming to Netflix tomorrow, the
think
day
it's
after we
tomorrow.
record this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So by the time this is out, it will be on Netflix, and you should watch it. But yesterday, Rob Zachney came to the office, my first time seeing him not at a Dodgers game, and he came up to me immediately and was just like, Uncut Gems was like 2 hours of someone having their hand around my throat. And I was like, yeah, yep,
Uh-huh.
yeah, for just 2 hours.
I-
And like,
you know
they
what?
don't go any farther than that.
But
But-
enough to like that little bone in the base of your throat,
Yeah.
where with a little pressure, you just feel like so vulnerable and
Yeah.
terrified.
Yeah.
I think I'd gotten enough warning. The first 45 minutes to an hour, I was actually pretty much okay with.
Yeah.
Certainly from the auction scene forward, which is about 2/3 of the way through the
Yeah.
film, I
Yeah.
was all the way on tilt. But I actually think there's even an earlier moment. We'll talk specifics in a little bit. But there was this like constant kind of slow increase and then a very fast increase of stress. And I think one of the most fascinating things the film does is make this character who is miserable and irredeemable and like deeply just toxic and cruel and small and petty, who you still want to see it work out for. And there are ways to do that I think are themselves kind of irredeemable and don't bring any value or meaning to a work. But I think there was something about this that, especially setting it in 2012 as a period
Yeah.
piece, that give you that feeling of like, some of this is just out of his fucking control, and some of it's very in his control. And I think some of the smartest things that they do are show his joy at when things are going right. And show there's such a smart thing that happens pretty early on, which is he makes some smart plays. He makes some successful plays that don't pan out for reasons that are out of his control. And that is such a great moment that brings you in to start rooting for this guy who you want nothing to fucking to do
And
with.
you also know how he got here.
Yes.
Like there is so
Yes.
much about that informs.
Though there are some reveals that are fascinating
Yeah.
around who he owes money to and shit.
For me, I think it was that the first time he makes a deal and it doesn't work out
Yeah.
for reasons that are not his control, there was that guttural, just sort of, that's not fair.
That's not fucking fair.
That's not fair to him. It's like, let him win. Let him win.
This movie would be over right now.
And that, and just like,
Well, no, he would take
It
that
wouldn't have.
money
I know, he
and it
would.
would just.
You're right. You're right.
yeah, that, and honestly, his relationship with Julia Fox, who
Yeah.
he seems like in the beginning of the movie, I'm like, okay, he's got a hot young girlfriend, whatever. But in the middle of the movie, you understand that they do love each other, and they're like,
This is her
probably-
fucking debut, also, by the way.
She's fucking
Wow.
incredible. She's
Yeah.
amazing, and she has a perfectly globular ass. Like it's like 2 globes.
It is like 2 globes.
It's beautiful. She is a beautiful
Gita's
woman.
saying the things we can't say on this podcast.
I am a bisexual woman, and I love butts. I
Rob
thought
just
she
took
was
his glasses off.
an amazing I thought Idina Menzel was also really incredible in this. Just
Yeah.
like a woman that is made out of hate. Like that has just lived with this guy for
Oh, that
so
kitchen
long.
scene.
Fully
Oh.
deserved.
Like
God.
absolutely deserved hate. Like she deserves to just not give him a chance. He doesn't deserve a chance. He's tried it a lot of times, and he
Well,
doesn't
usually that
need it anymore.
character is always like going to be portrayed as like
Unfair.
or like oh baby, I'll forgive you. Okay,
Mhm.
like that's always like the archetype.
No, she
And
wants to cut
instead-
his goddamn
no.
head
and
off.
they even set that character up multiple times to be like, okay, you're gonna now understand why they've gotten to this point, and every time it's just like, no, fuck you, fuck you. Like when she's wearing the dress,
Yeah.
and they have that encounter is just beautiful. The way she just eviscerates
Well,
him.
and has openly turned her daughter against him. Like there's that great
Yeah.
sequence with the daughter who is like,
He's
in-
really
in the
trying to
kitchen.
connect with her.
And she's like, no,
well,
I already
whatever.
know all your fucking dirt. Like, it's clear, like, you know.
Or you're gonna go spend some time at the
Oh,
apartment.
the apartment?
You're
Yeah.
going to the apartment. Okay.
God, it's
Well,
so
but
good.
but also there's this look that passes between Idina Menzel and their daughter that's like, we know the shit stories Howie spins for us. Like the knowing
This
look
fucking
of
guy,
like how
yeah.
many times have we had this conversation and he's doing it again.
Yeah.
And now nothing else needs to be said. They don't even like it's in one ear, out the other. Because like Howie might mean it in the moment, but he doesn't mean it in a sense that he will follow through on anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like Howie is a character who only lives in
Right.
the moment. This is one of the things that like has alienated from his family is that you see him trying to check the boxes of like being present for family events
Yeah.
and such. But the nature of family is about collective history, is about sharing life. Howie is a man who the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist. There's only this moment and what feels good in this moment. If the family can make him feel warm and loved for a minute, then family is good. If it bores him, if it makes him feel a little bit trapped, family is bad. He's got to go.
Yeah.
And we catch Howie at this moment of like, his son is the last one who maybe still has any patience for him.
Right.
His younger son might already be lost. His middle son is at that age where he takes after dad a little bit, views him as kind of a hero.
Well, the identification at that point is how he defines masculinity is like through his father. He's like at the point where he's like, okay, being a man is being what my dad is.
Yeah.
That
And he-
shot of his bedroom that has like all of the collectibles on the wall of like the action figures and Funko Pops and
Yep.
like rare
Yep.
like GameStop exclusives
Yep.
is so good because it's like this is how he would emulate his father in a way that's like relevant to his own interests. It's such a small like detail, but that set dressing is so important with communicating how he looks up to his father.
But I love like how it sets up this moment when he briefly flirts the idea of, hey, maybe I can reconnect with my family. Maybe I can put this back together. And it's like, no, we're already at that stage of a breakup or a divorce where there's not even necessarily the hurt anymore. There's just the boredom and fatigue.
Mhm.
Like we're still stuck here. We haven't done the formalities.
yeah,
Like it's already decided.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
system just needs to do
you
its
don't matter
Can
to
you
me.
go already?
Right.
Is like
Yeah.
basically what his entire family is expressing to him through their actions and their words and their looks. But with his relationship with Julia, like they both live or like enmeshed with the scam. Like all that Julia does throughout all the movie is scam every single man that talks to her because she knows that she's beautiful and she knows what it does to men. And she scams as she breathes, just very similar to Howie. Like she can't help it in a lot of ways. And because they both are the only people in their lives that understand what it is like to be always trying to turn your thing into a better thing, they are the only people that can emotionally connect with each other. They love each other. It's actual real love. And it's fucked up, but it's real. I don't know. I found that really beautiful.
You need someone
No,
who can
it's-
secure the bag for you like Julia does.
You really do, though.
It's a metaphor for all
For
relationships.
all relationships, really. Can we walk through the movie a little bit and like spoilers on like all the way? Let's talk through some scenes and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That
opens with. Go ahead.
opening scene, I was not expecting.
I was like, am I watching? Did they send me the right
What the
screener?
fuck?
Did they send me the right screener?
Yeah.
It
Is this-
says Austin Walker.
Yeah, I know it says that, but is this
Is
Uncut
Leonardo
Gems?
DiCaprio about to pop out?
Right,
and say
that's
Right,
exactly what I
that's
thought. I was like,
fucking-
Yeah.
am I watching Blood
Blood
Diamond?
Diamond.
Yep.
Didn't see that movie. Did it start like this? So yeah, like it opens with this kind of this insurrection at this mine in Ethiopia. I guess there's an accident and there's like
Guy
people
comes
are
out with a
pissed.
compound fracture.
Yeah, it's gross. They show that
Yeah.
broken bone. And in the kind of like chaos, a couple of people go in to the mine and find this rare uncut like opal that's still like it's kind of like a smaller than a football, bigger than a baseball. That is like part rock, like you just like brown rock, and then little looks at the gem inside, the opal inside, which is this rare black opal, which is much more valuable, we learned, than red opals. Not only for its beautiful quality and the fact that it reflects all sorts of different colors and you can look into it, but also because it seems to have semi-magical properties.
Cosmic energy.
Cosmic,
Yeah.
it has a cosmic, the energy cosmic, as Marvel would say. And we learn quick.
God.
It sets up one of the first like real whiplash gear shifts for me, which is
Yes.
we see them react to the gem, and we get the shot of the zoom in on the facet of the gem,
Right.
and we go into it, and for a moment, and then the soundtrack begins, the score
Mhm.
begins, and it is this beautiful old like synth heavy
Yeah.
like ambient soundtrack that sounds like it's a score for a sci-fi movie or a nature documentary.
It's
about
like
the
John
cosmos.
Carpenter was doing something much more chill.
Yeah, if John Carpenter
just got high. It was just like, you know what?
I'm gonna leave my hands on the keys for a little
A
bit.
serial killer with a knife is not
Well, it's
chasing
like
me down.
Evangelist
we're
is who it
chilling.
reminds me of.
Total
Honestly, but
evangelist stuff
yeah.
for
we
sure.
go through that, and it's like, what? Okay, now what movie am I watching? I'm still waiting for the part where it's a story about an inveterate New York gambler, and instead we're soaring through the cosmos. And I think that also sets up this tonally.
Yeah.
This movie is going to be street level. It's going to be over the shoulders of these characters, but its mind is also always
Galaxy braining.
Yeah, it's always a bit elevated over it though, right? It's always
It
like
is.
seeing these things in the broader context. Yes, like in the moment, this is a movie about two guys who just figured out how they can turn this mine accident to their advantage for a second. This is their play.
Right.
Now we're going to see the other end of that play, but also these are two moats in the cosmos.
And also the Black Opal introduces like the thematically rich aspect of both class, but like the experience of living in diaspora, where he makes a huge point of saying like this was mined by Ethiopian Jews.
Right,
And
black
like,
Jews.
Black Jews.
This connects us.
Yeah.
We are both members of a diaspora that
Yeah.
is broader, and there are parts of our diaspora that are not yet brought in. This, in some way, connects us to our own people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he does that to Kevin Garnett. The setup of this movie is you see that opal, you move through the opal until finally you're, instead of moving through the opal, moving through the colon of Howie, who is getting his colon checked for cancer.
You're up Adam Sandler's
You're
butt.
all the way up his butt. It's a camera shot of that, and then he goes to his place of business. He owns a shop in the Diamond District. It very importantly has like a number of locked doors that you have to be buzzed into, and inside you meet his whole staff, which includes Julia, who is his mistress, his girlfriend at this point. It's very clear this is not a secret at this point with his wife, but also Lakeith Stanfield's character. What is his name? Why am I blanking? It's a D name. No, it's not. Damani.
Damani.
Who is like his connection to black culture. Damani brings him black celebrities, rappers, artists, musicians, sports, athletes, who are going to shop for very expensive jewelry. And very quickly, we get this whole setup where it becomes very clear that, like you said, loan sharks have sent some goons to get shit from him. He is immediately out of control inside, or not in control of his own space. The goon takes some stuff from him.
The goon, who appears to have a bullet wound in
yeah.
and out scar on his neck. So like
he's
this
done
is-
dirt. This
this-
is not. Yeah, this is not like.
This is not a guy you fuck with.
Right, this is not a guy who has not been in it. He's not new to this shit. And eventually, as he does like a number of times throughout the movie, Howie, kind of placates him and says like, "Here's a little bit of money. Here's some. Take this, whatever. Please leave right now." And then he turns to Kevin Garnett, and kind of one of the big through lines is that while Lakeith Stanfield's Damani wants to sell Kevin Garnett some fake rollies, maybe some clean his earrings and do some like smaller things. Adam Sandler character Howie gets this opal and is so enamored with it that he immediately is like, I have to show this to someone. And I think this is interesting because it's not part of a play. I don't think he wants to sell this to Kevin Garnett. He's just like, I can tell that Kevin Garnett.
Will
By the way, I
appreciate
just
the
want to be
power.
clear. I'm saying Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett is a basketball player. He played for the Celtics. He was very successful for the Celtics, and he's playing himself here. That is, I'm not just saying Kevin
End
Garnett
of career Kevin Garnett is playing end of career
Kevin Garnett. Yeah, exactly.
Kevin Garnett deserved a Best Supporting
Yeah.
Actor.
Oh, he's so
my
fucking
God,
good in this
yeah.
movie.
For this. He is incredible. I did not know he had this in him.
Yes.
Amazing.
And Kevin Garnett falls for this opal. He sees this opal. It pulls him in. We get this, I think, a little goofy sequence of him seeing the power cosmic, getting a flashback of his own childhood, the history of blackness, the history of the earth writ large. And he's like, I have to have this opal. Howie, you got to let me hold this. Like, I'll buy this from you. And Howie's like, no, it's up for auction. an important thing to remember. It's up for auction on Monday.
See you there.
I'll see you there. Basically, if you want this opal, you can come to the auction. He's like, but let me hold it just for a night. I can tell this is going to make me go crazy on the court tonight because I'm playing the 76ers in the playoffs, and I'm gonna have a crazy good game if you let me just hold on to this and like sap its energy a little bit, just feed off of it. And he says yes for some reason. He says yes because it's Kevin Garnett.
Well, because also Kevin Garnett's going to give him his championship ring.
Right.
But that happens after.
That's part of that deal.
That's yeah. Like
That's
it's
part
like
of
he
the
doesn't
deal.
know that he's already agreed to give it.
Yeah.
When then
No,
Kevin Garnett
he's
essentially says
he
like
demands collateral. He will
like,
not
I
hand
need
it
the
over
ring. You give me
unless it's collateral.
your championship ring, which immediately he's like, oh, I can then flip that at the pawn shop, get some cash.
oh, that's the
make
first
a
heart
bet.
attack.
It's the
like
first
you
heart.
leave and then you get fuck.
That's like when I understood who this person was.
Yes.
He was not saying anything that he would not immediately go back on.
Right.
Like he was going to pawn that ring for cash, and because he was sure he would be able to get it back.
Right. And I think
Was he sure? No.
No.
We see things
well,
go wrong
no.
for him all the
Because
time.
He is sure in the sense that he is sure of anything
Right.
in the moment.
Right.
It's like,
He's not lying. He might be lying to himself, but he's not lying to other people.
correct. He believes he will have. He surely believes he will have the money to come back and get that
Right.
before Friday or whatever the deadline
Whatever the
was.
deadline
Well,
is.
and it's this weird. It dawns on me now. I'm sitting that I'm sitting here. He and Kevin Garnett also share something in that scene. They're both at the beginning of a run.
Right. Yes.
Like
Yes.
they are both about to go off. Like, and they're like, yes, they are up against it. Like Kevin Garnett is entering that late career phase. Like he comes across. I think it's a beautiful performance. He comes across like a guy who is looking for that edge. It's not in him anymore. So he's starting to think like with some magical thinking, like where else, like how do I get it back? How do I make, the flow of events come back to me a little bit?
Yeah.
And so I think the other connection he has with Howie in this moment, even though they don't know it, is they both feel it. They both feel that like they are about to go off on a run.
Yeah.
And Howie sees it in Garnett and he becomes sure. He does have a sure thing. It is his knowledge that Kevin Garnett is about to light up the Sixers in this playoff series and have one of those like late career where did this come from bursts.
Totally.
Do you?
So
I feel like one other sure thing though that he has is that he had already talked to somebody about that opal, and he had gotten a price that he was betting that he thought was a sure thing.
Right.
Right. And we'll get to exactly what happens at the auction, but to me,
There's
like a lot of
safety
these,
net there.
yeah, there's absolutely this like he will be able to get that ring back from the pawn shop because he knows that auction's going to go off and he's going to get way more than what he pawned it for.
Right.
Right. Like there is a one
Isn't
sure
the
thing.
auction after
It
the
is,
deadline?
but I think the way he thinks about the world is I always have 2 or 3 days to play with.
Right.
Right. I always can say I
Because he goes past the deadline in the movie. and still buys
exactly.
it.
And I think
he,
that's
he
part of
always
his thing.
thinks he can talk his way into it, and
Yeah.
why would he think any different? He's right every single time in this movie.
So before we get to the first thing that he's right about and is unfair, I just want to pause and say that opening scene is so good at setting tone, setting the sort of techniques that are going to be used throughout the film. So it's like a high quality, expensive diamond showroom, again, behind multiple locked doors that you have to get buzzed into. But it is not right. So when I say high quality, I mean expensive. I mean expensive for us.
But it's old.
What they show off in the
Yes.
store is a diamond encrusted Furby.
Yeah.
He's
Furby
got like
on
the
a
sort
chain
of
where you
like
can make the eyes move.
yeah, he has the sort of like shitty lab diamond jewelry that I love watching videos of on YouTube and have since before this movie
This
was
is
set.
where
this is
I
the
bet
era.
like they got that SpongeBob chain.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is 100% the case.
Yeah.
That guy's name is either Chris the Jeweler or it's God. Who is my other? Mr. Chris the Jeweler is one of them. There's another one who I can't remember the name of, and I feel bad because I watch so many of this dude's videos. Anyway, higher than a motherfucker, flyer than a plane is what he always would say about his showroom.
Naturally.
Anyway, Diamond. I think it's NYC Diamond Empire. Anyway, not to shout out weird YouTube, weird diamond chain collections, but I'm on that. The thing I love about this scene is, despite the fact that it is supposed to be a place where like you go to drop tens of thousands of dollars on diamonds. It is noisy as shit. The way the sound is mixed in this movie, especially whenever there's more than like 3 characters in a scene, is so abrasive and stressful because you can hear more of conversations that don't matter than you need to hear, right?
Yeah.
You could hear someone trying to like sell something in the background while Howie is over here working on the A plot. And the other thing you're hearing is not the B plot. It's not like, oh, if you listen,
that
there's
will
a
never
secret.
come up again.
It will never come up again. But it's meant to like overstimulate you.
Yeah.
And that's so well done.
Really set off my fight or flight response. Honestly, I had to take a break.
It feels like that's what his brain is doing.
Yes.
Like that is where his own internal monologue is.
He's talking to you, but he's actually looking over there, thinking about the next move.
Yeah, he's looking for plays.
Yeah.
One of the things that this reminded me of is it's a fever pitch that a lot of Spike Lee movies build to. Eventually, sort of the last act of a Spike Lee movie is often like, okay, now events are overtaking these characters. Characters set things in motion. Now there are events happening, and now everything is beginning to accelerate. It also reminded me of the last day of Henry Hill's Freedom and Goodfellas, right? It's got that like everything has catastrophic consequences attached to it, and everything is being driven by this sheer, I can get ahead of this.
Right.
I can yes, I am falling, but I can catch myself. And the entire movie feels that way. And just thinking about it and talking about like that texture, it is an exhausting movie. How he's exhausting. How do you live like this? It is
but
brutal.
It's where this character, Howie, where he thrives. He actively makes his life stressful. He loves the stress. It's where he feels alive. It's the only way he really feels like connected to his own humanity, his own life, is by creating situations where he can hit the jackpot, where he can be the underdog that won.
Right. We will get to that line, but the line that has become a meme, I didn't understand where the inflection was on this is how I win. I'd seen that for weeks, and I thought it was this is how I win. In other words, I have a plan that I'm going to put into action. But in that sequence, which comes towards the kind of climax of the film, it's him making trying to explain that while Kevin Garnett wins by demolishing someone else on the court, winning for Howie is concocting plans, making big bets, taking risks, and succeeding.
And we'll get there because I think that scene is so interesting. But what he does with the money that he is now scammed out of Kevin Garnett. Is make this fucking insane sports
with Mike
bet.
Francesa, by the way, which is so fucking funny to me.
He's good.
He's good. It's just him.
He comes across like an oily sports book.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So I just looked up an article on Thrillist, so I didn't understand the gambling in it. They say it in a way, and people react to it in a way where I knew that what he was doing was something really stupid. And he talks for so long that I knew that this bet was very elaborate.
All right, Patrick, you loved this because we were talking about it last night.
Yeah. Well, so it's
Patrick knows all about the three-way parlay.
I do. I do
call Jason
I do do
a
small amount of bettings on the side in $5 increments. But so this is more related to the second bet he does because we blew through it, and I was watching it with my wife, and I wasn't sure if she quite understood the gravity of the bet because they blow through it. And you've probably heard the term parlay, but you maybe don't the movie doesn't stop to really explain what's going on. And so it wasn't until the second bet where pause the movie, and I was like, do you? I want to make sure, do you understand exactly what the bet? It's oh yeah, it's multiple bets. I was like,
no.
I mean, yes. But I was like, if he does not he needs all these bets to play off simultaneously. The first bet, if the tip-off does not go his way,
it's done.
The whole bet's over.
Yeah.
All of it's null. No. It just gets to become a lesser bet. It's no, the bet is null and void. You need all of them to play together, which is why you can make, turn 100,000 into $1 million. And once she understood that, she's like, this movie's way more stressful now that I understand so everything that needs to occur.
I got the actual things that happen other than the tip. So Celtics need to win by 1 point, at least 1 point. Celtics are winning at halftime, which is also not a fucking guarantee. Garnett has more points as projected total, which why would you?
26 or 25, right?
So he was a good player at that point. Yeah. Garnett has more rebounds than projected total. Garnett has more blocked shots than projected total, and also a lightning bet, $1,000 lightning bet on the Celtics. For every point they cover above the spread, he wins $1,000. But if it's under, he loses $1,000.
So that was the bet that he makes with Mike Francesa early on. He makes that lightning bet. And he's like, no, I don't want to take this. Are you serious? And he's like, yes, I'm very serious. Here's the money. I'm good for the money. He doesn't give him the money. But I mean, if he gave him the money, that would actually have been
No, he gives him the money.
Does he actually give him the cash?
He's got the wad of cash in the envelope.
Because that's in the envelope.
This is how it becomes a thing later.
Right.
Yeah.
And he makes that bet. super important. He makes that bet, and it pays off. He gets very excited. He gets very excited, and we get some like moments of him with Julia. I'm skipping over stuff here, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like he has this relationship. We kind of see a little bit of his relationship with Julia.
It's a great scene where he's hiding in the closet.
That scene is good.
Yeah, that scene rips.
I like the scene.
I do wonder if the softies actually think that happens when you text a girl sexily about something.
Is that
she
not what
doesn't
happens?
sexy back.
She's not like super into it like that.
Well, usually you're just in bed.
Right.
You
Also,
know,
he
with the
wasn't-
covers over your head,
he
and
wasn't
you're into
putting
it.
much effort at all.
No,
You're wearing
he's not a
skates
good
and
sex
But you're wearing sweatpants, you know?
Yeah,
I
okay.
go put on the
Crackers.
bra
You
and
go
panties
set
for
it
a
up.
picture, and then I take it back off and I
And
get
you're like,
back in my
I gotta go
bed.
back to bed. Yeah, absolutely. I really like the earlier scene with them when they first introduced that character, where she's like, "Do you want to cuddle or not? Like, I basically need to baby you right now. I can tell you're fucking on one. Lay down, Howie."
Yeah, and he's like legitimately mad for her for not showing up to work. And like,
Which is fair.
He's right, but she's still like, "You're not actually mad about that. Come to
Yes,
bed."
yes.
He's like, "Okay, you're right." Like,
Just one thing about
Please.
the three-way parlay, though. I think the other thing that begins to become a theme in this movie is the notion of return on investment. One of the things that, like, he places bets that pay off huge, but they're insanely high risk, right? And that increasingly is the only action he wants to play for. Like, Francesca's character doesn't want to do the lightning action. He's like, you don't want any part of that,
Right.
Because, look, I'm your book, but this is an informal relationship. We're also like acquaintances. This is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Howie's at a point where he's like, he wants it. He, like, not only because the payouts get swingier, but also because that is increasingly what he's looking for. The safe, get a like 1/3 return on what you lay down for a bet for like picking that's
Which
boring.
might
That's
cover
shit.
him, which
Yeah.
might get him out of all of the debt he's in.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that action.
The gem would get him out of the debt
Right.
too. But that's boring.
Right.
Like return on investment, like doubling your money. That's boring. Who wants to do that? Howie wants 100 to 1. He wants, those are the odds he wants to play for. Those are the payouts he wants. And that's one of the other things driving this is a guy who has a successful business. This is a guy who could probably like be making a decent amount of money just placing smart bets with different sports books. That's not what Howie's into. Howie wants to win the big bets on the long odds.
Yeah.
And that is kind of symbolic of like what this character and what the culture he's a part of, like in terms of business. This is increasingly what drives our economy, right? That doubling your money, reliable returns, stable business model. Fuck that. I want everything.
it's also related to sort of the intergenerational trauma of being someone who lives in the diaspora, where in order to in order to get half as much, you have to do twice as much, that kind of thing, where you can't be successful as just a middle class person. In order to prove to the people whose culture who are not letting you into the majority culture, is how we wouldn't fit in at a normal business. He's not actually that wrong with money.
Normal business people can't work for him. They lose their minds. Because he's so out there.
But it's not like he's unsuccessful. So in order to prove to them that he is a successful man, he needs to be much richer than them. And he needs to prove that he worked harder than them. And like the pain is part of it.
Oh, yeah.
The
risk is like, that's what he's like, that's the bigger doubt someone has that he can pull it off.
Yeah.
That's more self-worth to him to try and pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think it's a super interesting juxtaposition with basketball as the choice sport here, right?
That's another thing. A lot of black people take
totally,
basketball. Yeah.
But also success in basketball and playoff basketball specifically is not about big wins. Success in playoff basketball is about consistency, being able to win by 1 point 5 times in a row. Right? That is not it's like ironic given where those two characters end up, right? They both want to win. They both want to crush the opposition. They both want to win in ways that are dramatic. The big speech that he ends up giving is like, Kevin, you're going to go out there and you're going to want to beat them, and not just beat them, but beat them into the ground. You're going to want to like score 30 more points than you actually need to score, just to show them who you are.
Yeah.
But that doesn't actually win the game. The thing that wins the game is just we beat them 5 times out of 7, right?
Yeah.
Or we first to 4
times
4 times out. I was like, that's not right. First to 4, and that is like such an interesting flip on, because if they had done the Super Bowl, right? Or if they'd done football playoffs,
Yeah, it's a coin flip.
It's a
50-50.
coin flip, and you can win on those with the big wild Hail Mary play.
Right.
The Hail Mary play
Doesn't exist in
in basketball unless you set up a close enough situation that consistently the whole game you're 1-to-1 with the other side. And that distinction and like what the outcomes are reflecting those two broader strategies of success is really
basketball is a
fascinating.
grind in way football
Exactly.
is not.
And in a way that winning these big bets is not, but he's playing them like a grind. He's playing them like one play after another. He's playing a football game. You know, or he goes on drives. Yeah, and like, is this drive going to give me a touchdown or not?
Yeah,
It's really interesting.
He doesn't settle for field goals.
No, he does not settle for field goals.
Another interesting like thematic wrinkle on top of this is that this movie takes place during Passover, and this is a deeply Jewish movie. And Passover is the story of liberation from bondage. And that is mostly what Howie is seeking to escape from is bondage. Bondage is self-inflicted, let's be real.
I was going to say,
Problems he
if
makes
you
for
asked him
himself.
what is holding him back, like I think he would get.
He has no idea. He thinks everything's against him.
Right.
And everything is like a nebulous
The world doesn't believe in
force.
him.
Yeah, but he thinks he can escape it. And that idea of liberation is so important to him. So much so that I feel like he puts himself into situations that he needs to be freed from. Because he
Can't just enjoy his family. And like it's clearly like his house, that's probably all paid for by the legitimate business, right? And you look at that house and it's like,
it's a nice house.
bro,
It's a nice house.
you're doing well.
Yeah.
Like you've probably got $1 million
His family
house.
is loaded.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's
His family-
that's not enough for him. He hasn't escaped
Yeah.
the chains that he's trying to get past.
Yeah.
Like he has to artificially put on new ones.
Yeah.
His family,
absolutely.
who includes his loan shark,
Well, so
by the way, which is the
Yes!
best fucking
Oh my
reveal.
This is what
God.
I want to get to.
Amazing.
Yes.
First of all, Peter Boghossian, I think, is
Eric
is
Boghossian.
Arno. Eric Boghossian.
Yeah. Let me check.
Turns
Yeah,
in
that's right.
such a great performance
Dude.
as Arno the Lone Shark, because from the first time he is present while Howie's getting roughed up, he has this look of regret and shame as it's happening
Yeah.
that makes you think like Arno might be a bookie, but like he is not built for this part of the
Right.
business. Like, and he actually doesn't want to be doing this to Howie. It hurts him that it's Howie specifically. And that question is answered later when he appears at the Passover Seder as his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
But I think this
And it's
is
also the reason that the goons never want him to talk to Arno. Right?
Yeah.
Don't say my name. You can't like do any of. Please don't do any of the things that make me feel like a person to you. And his goons like are doing everything. It's almost like the inverse Marlo Stanfield thing.
Yeah.
Of the reason that Chris Partlow and Snoop are his frontmen are to keep Marlo from going wild on people. In this case, it's like, no, if we let Arno in, he's gonna like back off on
Yeah.
this. He's gonna give Howie more than we should give him.
But I think this is one of the other things I wanted to raise here is that Howie lives dangerously, but in another way he doesn't. Like he makes all these risks, but actually the risks are basically underwritten or guaranteed by people who are stuck with him for one reason or another. His biggest bookie that he's in the deepest debt to is his brother-in-law.
Right.
His pawnbroker
Oh,
are clearly like they're colleagues.
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
yes, they're fronting him money, and these are
the
basically
bit with
loans.
his ring,
Yeah.
where he's like, "Howie, you've had this since 1970, or you've had this for 12 years. This is so important to you.
Yeah.
Are you okay?" Is so heartbreaking.
Right. And so this is the other thing is like this weird notion of like Howie is trapped, but at the same time, what he's trapped by are these traps he's built for other people and pulled into with him, right? Like his debt problems are basically family debts. They could be solved at a moment's notice by going to his family. What we learn later is his father, Judd Hirsch's character, can just cover these sorts of outlays like at a moment's notice. Inconvenienced by them, but he could cover them.
Right. Judd Hirsch, by the way, always fantastic to see. And
Yeah.
was great in this.
And
He
so I think
loans him more than he owes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which again is like he could have just gone
Yeah.
to Judd Hirsch and been like, "Hey, I'm really in trouble. I fucked up.
Which-
Can you cover me and take my debt? I'll pay you back. We'll figure something out."
which I think is one of the things that helps drive home like this character is not even a good anti-hero in some ways, right? Like there is nothing if he were in hock to if you're just a compulsive gambler and you were in hock to some bad bookies, we could sort of root for him as this guy who's just trying to get out from under.
right.
But he could just get out from under at a moment's notice. All it would require is admitting he fucked up, right? The only thing it would cost him is a little bit of pride to get out from under. And that's the price he won't pay. And the fact that he knows that he would have to pay that price to get out from under this is what drives him to make wilder and wilder risks. This notion that the thing that has to be protected above all is my ego and how I feel. And I think that's one of the things that makes him kind of irredeemable by the end is like, look at all you've done to these people around you. And he doesn't see it that way. To him, it's their fault that he feels
There
this
is
way.
almost a. Are you familiar with the? God, is it just called the utility monster? Yes, the utility monster, thought experiment that is an anti-utilitarianism kind of thought experiment that Robert Nozick came up with in the 70s. Who, there are a lot. It's very reductive of what utilitarianism is. Utilitarianism, very broadly, is a philosophical school of which there are many sub-schools that is like, hey, what is ethical is what produces the most utility what produces the most utility, right? And there are subdivisions that are like, is that for the most people? Is that for, what are the checks there? Blah, blah, blah. But the thing that Nozick comes up with to argue against utilitarianism is basically, imagine you have a town of 100 people and everyone in that town, the highest joy that they can get is a 10, and there's someone who can get up to 1,000. Do you do everything in your power to let that person who can get up to 1,000 or 10,000, do you make them the king tyrant? Do you give them all the food? Do you give them everything that they want because they can theoretically get that much more utility out of all that stuff? No, of course not. And it's, it's kind of a trite example that I think Nozick is not great for, but he is a utility monster, right? This is a film in which you see Howie's joy when he's winning is so much higher than everyone else in the world when they're winning, right?
Literally when he gets the black opal in his hand for the first time, someone's talking to him and explaining why they have to quit because they can't handle his bullshit. Yeah. And he just looks him dead in the eyes and is like, oh my God, I'm about to come.
Yeah, 100%. And when it's not that he doesn't get some joy out of the other things in life. When he sees his daughter on stage, I think there's a moment so the way the movie goes at that point is he makes it out to see his daughter at a school play or whatever. Yeah. And there's this amazing moment where they do a special effect on screen where a fairy or something has given her the gift of producing gold coins from her mouth whenever she speaks. So pure is her soul or whatever. And there's this on stage special effect of her opening her mouth and money coming out, and he loves it. And he loves it on multiple levels. I think one, he just loves money.
Yep.
But also I think he's like, wow, that's a cool special effect. But that degree of excitement that everybody in that theater has is nowhere near the level of excitement he gets while watching a bet play out. He's so much more hyped up than everybody else, and it is one of his big tragic flaws is that he can't just settle for a regular level of being excited about life. So
that's what excites
me about
Julia.
He needs to come about looking at an opal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's what excites me about Julia also is that she's also a utility monster in that she gets so much excitement out of being attracted to other people. Right. She doesn't want to fuck them. She explicitly tells them that she won't do it, and she keeps to her word.
Oh yeah.
But she wants them to get a hard on when they look at her, and she loves it. She loves that feeling a lot. She loves that what it gets her too. She loves that she's able to go from just being a model to having a photography career because people want to fuck her. And she doesn't care that it's about people wanting to fuck her. She thinks that part is great also.
Mm-hmm. I want to take a quick break here. And then on the other side, I want to talk about Sandler specifically. And then I want to talk about a scene driven by Julia in a nightclub. But we'll take a quick break and then we'll get to the second half of our Uncut Gems discussion. Okay, so this is also one of those movies that comes along every so often where Adam Sandler does a serious role. And Patrick...
Once every 10 years.
Yeah, it's like a comet passing through the solar system. A thing you might see if you stared into that black opal. But I am curious, what do we make of Adam Sandler being this character? What significance does it have that, this character is played by a guy that we're used to from all these other roles? Because I look at it and he looks like a John Turturro character.
Yeah.
That Turturro could probably we have seen him play this character. Why is it important
there
that it's Adam Sandler?
There are better actors that we were talking about this last night. There are better actors, pure actors that could have played this role. But if you read about the Safdie brothers and why they wrote this for him.
Yeah.
They wrote this because they wanted the meta-textual tension with the audience in which you are seeing someone play a role to do things that are counter to then what you I grew up when at the height of Adam Sandler's like powers and like the comedy scene, like
I grew up with
Happy
the Hanukkah
Madison
song.
and like Waterboy, like
yeah.
those, like a new Adam Sandler movie was like a fucking event. Like he helped define, like that was like what I thought of comedy, like when you were 7. And so, but he always plays like underdog roles. He always plays kind of a come from behind sort of character.
He plays obnoxious guys.
Yeah,
too.
and he plays obnoxious guys. And so casting him as that role, as the audience, I think you can watch this movie, have no experience with Adam Sandler, and enjoy it. I think the character works, but the character works so much better if you bring that baggage with you. And they talk about it in the script where like he passed on this script like 5 or 6 different times, and then eventually they were able to convince
after their last
after
movie,
Good Times
right,
came out,
yeah,
Good Time
yeah.
or Good Times came out, like he saw that and was like, fine, fuck it, okay, I'll make this movie with you, and because they wanted the audience, and I felt that watching, was just like the weirdness of him playing the character only heightens the enjoyment and the stress of watching him play that character because of how many times you've watched him play radically different roles, and the fact that he doesn't
goofballs or
inhabit roles like this.
schlubs or-
Yeah.
right.
The movie asks the question, what if you actually knew Happy Gilmore?
It
You
would
want
be
to
bad.
fucking kill that
Yeah,
guy.
That dude sucks.
You want to fucking murder that man.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to watch this next to not his late period stuff, but at the height of his career, where he was just making blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster. And I love it. I mean, I think this is people, when I say, I wrote an article like Kotaku and are still there, like the headline was Adam Sandler decides he wants to act today, which thank you, Natalie DeGraffenreid, for letting me run that headline. And people kept saying, well, haven't you seen Punch Drunk Love? And I was like, he was good and surprising in Punch Drunk Love, but that wasn't like a deep performance. That was like a early 2000s twee indie performance in a way that we used to mistake for depth.
Right.
It was like a Garden State performance, you know? It was
He was
good.
very angry.
We were not.
He broke that window.
He broke that window.
He broke that window,
He
but
yelled
he
a
was.
I'm not quite sure I'd call that movie Garden State. I feel like
No,
calling
it's
it Garden
twee.
State is a particular
It's
It's
insult.
not as bad as Garden State,
Yeah.
but it is twee in that same kind of
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it's in that world, but I just was like
Yeah.
Garden State. Is,
If you had
It didn't
only
make
seen,
me
if
as
you were like,
physically
oh,
angry as Garden State.
but
you
if
know?
you're a listener who's like, I love Garden State, I'll go watch Punch Drunk Love, thinking you're going to get a Braffian performance, a Zach Braffian performance out of Sandler. You're going to get something a little
No,
different.
it's an
But I get it.
like there's emotional depth, but that
Yeah,
movie
I
was
know what you
surprising and people thought it was good because it was different. And I understand
and because it was Sandler, right?
it
Like
was
that movie is
Sandler.
It's
also
playing on the
operating
same
on a
thing.
on a similar, like it's fucking with the audience by stunt casting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what the Softies got out of Sandler is incredible. It's such a deep performance with so many layers to it. It's such a complicated person.
And yet it still feels like I see his other characters.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
So my wife and I were talking about the movie afterwards, and she was like, yeah, it was a really good performance, but I kept getting confused because having seen, mostly his 90s work,
Yeah.
not like a lot of the stuff when he started making grown-ups with his buddies, which on some level I sort of respect.
He wants to take a vacation.
Yeah,
man.
it's take
I
a
get
vacation
it.
with your friends and make a shit ton of money. Good for you. But like when he would scream, it's like, yeah, I would see the Happy Madison character. Like I saw Adam Sandler bit characters from SNL in those reactions because he was playing those characters, just not grounded in a reality
Right.
where those characters have consequences for their actions. And this movie is essentially like, what if you, like you said, Gita, like took an SNL character or a Happy Gilmore and said, yeah, but what if you put him in the real world? Like, how would that character operate, and how would the world push back on them?
Yeah.
Right. He is in the scene where after the play, or in the middle of the play, the goons show up and he is chased down in the parking lot.
This gave me so much anxiety. The phone call.
Beat the shit out of, and then stripped down and put into his own locked into his own trunk naked, and has to call his wife, with whom he's separated, or not fully separated but partially separated, and has to have her come out and open the trunk. He lies to her and says, "I locked my keys in the trunk. Can you come out and buzz the trunk?" And he pokes his head up out of it and is like, hey, listen, I'm okay. And she's like, I'm leaving. Bye.
I don't give a shit.
He's
And there is
nude
like,
also, we mentioned that,
Yeah,
right?
no
yeah,
clothes.
completely nude. And there was big daddy energy. What is
Yes.
that? Is that the name
Big
of the movie?
Daddy,
Big
yeah.
Daddy. Sandy Koufax is the name of that character, which is a thing.
How do you, what?
I looked it up.
Okay, good. I was,
Which is like, oh yeah, that's right.
this is the end of his 90s run.
yeah, it is.
What was
It is.
the Satan one?
Little Nicky.
Little Nicky,
No.
bad
I did
movie.
not.
That's
look
when it
that
was
up.
all over.
That was bad. But like that energy is there for him for sure. It's like, oh, this is moving from like completely manic to depressive, moving to like schlubby, nice guy, dude next door, dad next door, Adam Sandler energy. But it's there. It's 100% there. And I think it's part of what makes it sympathetic. That's also the scene in which I think they do the most work to make me sympathetic to this complete dirtbag, which is he won the fucking bet.
Yeah.
Yep.
He won the bet.
God.
He won the lightning bet.
He was right.
When they reveal like, no, actually we took it out, and like you like.
I felt so mad.
Like when you go to the top of a roller coaster and you go down.
Yes.
I felt like just like the energy leave my stomach.
He wins the bet, but it is revealed that Arno stepped in and canceled the bet on his behalf, basically, and said, that's my money. He can't make a bet with my money. And bookies know each other. Bookies know loan sharks.
Right.
They know not to. They're going to
respect the choice.
Exactly. He's like, all right, I'm gonna cancel that bet and give you the money. And that is so infuriating because he's like, he's right. He says like, Arno, you fucked us both. Like we both won. And you fucked us on this, and immediately
$600,000.
Yeah.
Jesus
Right,
Christ.
and you're immediately like,
I want to go back to something really quick because Gita's headline made me think of this. That the character that Adam Sandler plays in this movie is someone who can't settle for the safe bet and always needs the risk to like feel alive. Adam Sandler as an actor does take the safe bet.
The opposite.
And the reason it's interesting when he gets cast in a film that's not going to be just him and his buddies, shooting the shit is like, well, goddamn, like what's interesting about this script that would get him to do something out of his comfort zone? Because he chooses to do this. Like he only chooses to do it once every 10 years. And so like it's interesting to see that dynamic where it's like, this movie will make him no money, right? Like he should just go make the Netflix movies. That's going to make him money and they're safe and they're easy. But it's just interesting, like the parallel or like the opposite of the character relative to Adam Sandler's like own personal career choices.
Yeah. At that point, we go into the next thing that you want to talk about, right?
Yeah, like going to the sad dad energy in some ways. So after dealing with the smoking ruins of his family in the wake of this school play, Daddy's got to go out. He's got to go see The Weeknd in the city. He's going to stay the night at the apartment.
I mentioned it's the best era of The Weeknd in our group chat. This is 2012 Weeknd. This is Trilogy era. This is House of Balloons. This is the fucking shit. I miss that era so bad. He was so good.
Trilogy was so good.
So I think there's a couple things that happen in the scene, and I think it's a crucial scene for establishing who Julia is. But before we get to that, there's this moment that I loved, which is that he's going there because Damani has been trying to recover this opal from Kevin Garnett, who's been hanging on to it and has just been kind of ghosting them. And it's getting increasingly anxious. He needs to get this thing delivered to the auction by a certain day or it doesn't get auctioned in the next block. But he goes there to pick it up from Damani, and Damani shows up and Damani's like, I don't have it. Listen, like just be cool. You'll get it. But like, I don't have it. I said, well, why the fuck are you here? And he's like, well, it's The Weeknd, man. And like right as that happens, though, The Weeknd demands the place be lit only by black lights. And so the light changes and everyone's caught in the black light. Everyone fades except for Damani's jacket. Damani's jacket becomes this like blazing, like glowing, like neon orange.
It's like a torch. Yeah.
Yeah. And the music comes up, and I don't. What's the song that The Weeknd launches into? It's beautiful.
It's the one that has the hook. Money is the motive. What is the name of that song? It is.
But it's this beautiful club performance.
The Morning.
It is. Yes, that is correct.
So he launches into that song, and we see the shot of how he's sort of lost in like the blue mist behind Damani, and Damani has the light on him and he's glowing in this torch. And it feels like in this moment, like to me, the way that shot read is for the moment, the hustle is going Damani's way.
Yes.
Like Damani has a future in this business.
Yes.
Damani's in with the right people.
He's prepared, whether he knows it or not. I don't know that he was like, yes, Abel, The Weeknd, loves blacklight. I will have what I need to wear so that I stand out. He's just connected. He has that. He's in line with it. He's in the flow.
Right. Like he is also on his run.
Yes.
And Howard's is ending. And there's this notion of Howard's losing the connections he needs to keep this business going and the way he's been doing it. He increasingly needs Damani. Damani increasingly does not need Howard. But you also get the sense that Damani's another guy who's always just 1 or 2 steps ahead of the shit hitting the fan. He's trying to, pawn fake rollies off on his people, right? Like his clients that are coming to him. He is in danger constantly of burning those connections by giving them a shitty knockoff Rolex, and that's going to come back on him like fast. But for the moment, Damani has time to figure this out. Damani's the man, and Howard is no longer that guy. And the combination of that shot and that music, it is probably the most elegiac moment in the film of just seeing these two characters who probably on very similar arcs. At different points in the arc. And this is the moment where they sort of cross.
Yeah.
And then the performance is over and Howard needs to get to the weekend. And we get, I think, what is a pretty critical scene about Julia and then about Julia and Howie's relationship.
God. Okay. So Julia's in a closet with the Weeknd. And she's snorting coke with him. And the Weeknd thinks that this is the opportunity. He's going to make it happen with this beautiful white woman. And she is really like a hard line. No, we're not kissing. We're not doing anything other than snorting coke. I have a man. I'm not going to betray him. But she gets very close to that line.
Oh, yeah.
She knows
there is some
that
contact
she's into him, and she will play that up because she needs something from him, and she needs him to think he might be able to one day fuck her. So at one point, he's like, I'm so hard right now, and puts her hand on his dick, and she says, wow, how are you so fucking hard? And like she does seem bemused, It does seem like she's teasing him, and like she probably won't go for it. But like around that point is when Howie enters, and of course he's furious because it looks like they were about to fuck. And they go out in the street, and he's screaming and crying and like is so fucking upset. But she's just like, Howie, we talked about this. It's gonna be like this sometimes. I got to do this sometimes.
I was making a sale.
Yeah. Like, how else do I go? She was working. She was working. And
this is why she doesn't come in at 10.
Yeah.
'Cause sometimes she works at night.
Yeah. And it's like, it's adjacent to sex work. It's not quite sex work, but it's something that like he can't quite emotionally handle. But she's like, this is how she wins.
Yeah, totally.
That is how she wins. That is how she escapes. Like how she gains enough capital to be considered something more than just a pretty woman, just a piece of ass, is by wielding that in a way that makes her able to get things that she can't get otherwise, and she needs it. She needs to be able to do it. And right now, before she's able to get her like photographer, she legitimately wants to be a photographer. That's not just like a hobby for her. She has a nice camera, and she's psyched to shoot the Weeknd because that could really be a big break for her because he was right in the cusp.
Right.
And the way that their relationship comes into play, where it's like this cathartic yelling where you can tell they saved up some yelling for each other specifically, or they're just fucking screaming about shit that didn't even happen that night. They're just yelling at each other. It doesn't make any sense anymore. And he breaks up with her suddenly and is like, move out. And she's devastated, but like, you gotta get the sense this has happened before. Also,
they've definitely
broken
right?
up and gotten back together.
You've seen that couple, like I'm going home. Get your own fucking cab. Get your own fucking cab. And like that this is not the end.
Bar.
You look at them. It's
totally.
But I also love we've just seen him with his family, and there's this weird dynamic of he wants the hot young thing, but also could she just be a little more like a wife? Could she just be a little more like monogamous?
Soon as she acts like a wife, he's not going to want her anymore.
Yep.
That was what happened with Idina Menzel, who is not an unattractive woman. She's beautiful. She's Idina Menzel.
but it comes with reciprocal obligations that Howie doesn't want to fulfill. Yeah. Like that's their thing is like Howie's like, no, you have to be true to me. Well, what will you be there for? Will you be there for the bad times? Will you be there? Will you have my back? No. But Howie would feel better if you were if you were always there for him.
Yeah.
That's what's fair. That's what he's owed.
And I think honestly though, that mentality is why they eventually make up.
Yeah.
They make up because he does understand that you have to lie to the people you love. In the world that he's created for himself, for fighting for more money is the only thing that matters. He's like, well, you do just lie to people, and I get it. What you did was not very nice to me, is what he says about that.
Yeah. I loved, also, that scene ends where we are stuck with Julia in her humiliation. And there's the side, like God, is it a dolly shot? We're traveling alongside her, basically. And we're watching the sidewalk scroll past and the
As
people
she's going back to
in
the bar
line.
or the club. Yeah.
And everyone has seen this, and there's people laughing, and she starts like talking shit.
She
with
says
some of
she says that's why you're out here.
Yeah.
And she goes back in, and it's great.
Listen, though, she's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
She knows what looking like that gets her. And it does.
And carrying herself in that way where there is never a doubt that she knows she'll get him back. She knows she's going to make it right. She's doing the same thing that he's doing, which is, all right, what's my play? How do I go from this bad place to a good place?
Well, and I just love the sort of quiet heroism of that moment of just making a complete ass of yourself in public, that moment of humiliation. And she's like, fuck you. I am not I'm not humiliated. I'm not bowed by that. I'm going back into the club.
Yeah,
fuck
all y'all. Yeah, exactly.
Then
we get Passover. Passover's between then and KG coming back. Passover happens. You get the revelation that Arno is his brother-in-law. They're like, wait, why the fuck is he here? Is so good.
Yeah, Arno is his brother-in-law, and also compared to Arno, Howie is the good son, which blew my mind.
Yeah.
But Howie's dad hates his son-in-law because he says it's like his daughter married the enemy.
Yeah.
Basically, he can't. They were trying to do stop us dinner, and he can't read anything.
He can't read anything.
He doesn't know any. He doesn't know what to say.
Wait,
is
that actually Howie's dad?
No, that's Howie's
father-in-law.
That's
No. Judd Hirsch is Howie's dad.
Yeah.
Really?
That's
His sister married Arno. Yeah.
Okay.
And Arno is a
Wiki says that he's Howard's
not-
father-in-law.
Yeah, no, because I
Wiki says-
remember.
Oh, really?
I remember
Gooey is-
Howard say, "I have to make it to my father-in-law."
Yeah. That's his father-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. So he's the good son-in-law?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fucking
That's even wild.
Yeah.
That puts another angle.
Judd Hirsch, why are you so close to this? Oh, my God.
Well, there's just it's Passover Seder, not Shabbos dinner. And they're doing the plagues, and Arno doesn't know the plagues, and so he can't do it. And then, God, this smug ass little look that Adam Sandler gives Arno when he just just picks it up nonchalantly, dips his hand in the wine, and just begins
He says the Judd Hirsch's character is he said happy holidays to me like it's Christmas. I was it's so fucking good. It's so good. Anyway, Passover happens. KG comes back the next day. Is I'm going to buy the stone from you, Howie. This is I'll give you $175,000. And Howie says no.
You get stuck in the man trap.
Right. There's a
God,
whole setup.
This is the signature scene for me.
Yeah.
Is this man trap scene?
It's so anxiety-inducing. I was please open the door.
Just skin fucking crawling.
There's the two doors. There's an outside door that you have to open, and then there's an inside door that is bulletproof glass. You need to get buzzed through. You need to get buzzed through them both. You get buzzed once to get inside the man trap. You buzz the second time to get into the store, into the shop, and it breaks. And they have to put a fucking chisel.
This is
in the mechanism.
A jewelry store like this is a fortified structure.
Right.
If that thing breaks
In the Purge, I would be happy to be in this jewelry store.
But they can't just open it because it is meant to not be openable. And so they have to get the dude who works in the store who's clearly combination jeweler, handyman, etc. He's got to show up with not just a screwdriver to wedge things open, but he needs to get metal filings into the circuit to bridge the connection.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to fix this. And then we're going to hold it in place with the screwdriver. That's my assumption about
That's what it
what's
seemed
happening
like
there.
to me. Yeah.
But it's this he has Kevin Garnett, Damani, and other members of that crew
And the security team.
wedged into this phone booth.
And didn't they at that point had they just kicked out the goons also?
Yes.
Or was that the first time?
That was the first time.
That was the first time. Okay.
So people are screaming at Howard from inside the man trap. People are screaming at Howard through the intercom.
Right. Because also there's a whole other C plot of someone else Howie owes money to who are very easy to ditch and ignore. And they're trying to get in.
And people are screaming at Howard from inside the store.
Yes.
And Howard's not responding to any of them. He is just screaming generally because he's also had his nose broken, I think, at this point. Is this when he got his nose broken?
No, that's next.
Right.
That's at the auction.
He's all fucked up. He's, I think, slept in the store because he doesn't want to go home because he's told Julia to move out. So he's all fucked up. He's not talking to anybody, and he's trying to get the door to work because he does have to let the people in the man trap in, and it's just endless noise, endless screaming, endless buzzing.
And
like,
someone's
that is
quitting,
what
I
this
think,
movie
in the
is for
scene.
me.
It's just a lot.
Y'all, we need to just pause 1 second. John Amos cameo. After the Passover dinner, they're driving home. He's got to swing by the apartment to get something, but really he's going to see if Julia's moved out. His son needs to go to the bathroom. And there's just this weird, like, only in New York moment where he's like, you can go use the washroom in one of my neighbor's places. You'll love this guy. He was in Coming to America. And he knocks on the door. And sure enough, it's John Amos, who is the dad in Coming to America. And he's like, hey, it's Howie, your neighbor. Can my son use your bathroom? And Amos just looks at him. He's like, no. And just closes the door. It's perfect.
It's so nice.
What a weird detail. But yeah. So Garnett also has this weird mania about him.
Yeah.
Because he's trapped in this fucking like
he's a
man
big
trap.
man.
And he's like waving this like
$1 million
grocery store bag full of money with the opal in it too, I think. And he's like, I got money for you. I want to buy this. I got your opal, but I got $175,000. I want to buy it. And it's like he's trying to close this deal while he's trapped in this by now obvious con man's like like nothing is on the up and up. And Garnett is just impervious to all of it. He's just like, let me into the store so I can buy this rock. It's great. So Garnett gets in, delivers the opal. Howie still refuses to sell it because it's got to go to this auction, which sets up the next disaster, which is that when he delivers it to the auctioneer, they have to appraise it. And he's already late doing this. Remember, he thinks this is $1 million opal.
Right.
When he checks to see what it's listed for, he finds in the auction the auction catalog a note, an insert, adjusting the price on the opal down to like $150,000.
Yeah.
It's basically junk.
It's less than what KG just offered for it.
Yes.
It's quite a bit lower, again, than the mill that he thought he could get for it from. And it is disputed in some sense, in the sense that if he had gotten if part of the reason it seems like it's been set so low is he gets it to them late. They have to do a rush job to appraise it. They put it in, and they don't like the fucking guy, and fuck him, right?
Yeah.
If he gets it to them early, maybe they do undervalue it based on what his anticipation is, but he would have had time to get a secondary appraisal. He would have had time to counter their appraisal and maybe meet somewhere in the middle, but that's not how he does things.
He has an argument where like they probably appraise like lots of fairly high-end diamonds and stuff set in jewelry, not raw uncut gems, right? Like they don't look at stuff like that usually. He would have found people who did. Maybe he's full shit. Maybe he's like deluded. Maybe he's right. But either way, his solution here is first he tries to run a con.
I think he's at least partially right because they did give him an initial appraisal, which is where he got the number million, like it was like 700,000 to up to $1 million.
Right.
It was printed in the original book. So even them, they were expecting something there in that range.
It is clear that part of what's happening is he's getting fucked because they hate dealing with him.
Yeah.
And
Which
they just
fair.
want him to fuck off.
So now we begin entering the terminal dive.
And they give him the option. They say, you know what? You could pull it from the thing if you have another seller. You want to go put it up for auction yourself. You want to do something else. At that point, he could have taken it and been like, KG, 175 works for me. Here it is.
But instead, he tries to run a Hail Mary play, which is, what if somebody bid substantially in excess of the appraisal? How could he guarantee that happens? Call up Judd Hirsch and ask him to run up the bidding. And Judd Hirsch arrives, who's arrived mostly to meet Kevin Garnett and
that was
his son.
It was his son wants to meet. Yeah.
But he's like, I could do it, Howie, but what if we win? And Howie's like, no, that's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. And right away, you know, this is exactly what's going to happen. So he begins running up the bidding on this fucking rock, and KG is in there matching the bids, and he goes pretty high. He gets it but he goes as high as he was going to offer before. He
goes one over. He goes to 180.
Okay,
and at that point, that's where you're like, all right, great, we got a little extra. And fucking Adam
Judd
Sandler's
Hirsch goes
like,
to 190.
Yeah. He looks to Adam to make sure too.
Yeah.
He looks to Howie to double check, and of course Howie's like, keep going.
There's no number.
Kevin Garnett has an accountant there.
Yeah.
So you know, as the audience member, you know in your heart that that 175,000 is probably all the liquid cash he has right now,
Yeah.
and he can't go higher than
Yeah.
that. And he's brought his accountant to make sure that he doesn't do that.
Yeah, they like.
Right.
There's like a little moment where they're kind of arguing when he does go to 180, and
Yep.
she's like, "What?" He's like, "It's okay, we'll
Yeah.
figure it out."
So now Judd Hirsch has to pay 190 for this fucking rock he didn't want.
Yep.
He's furious. And
But
he's
has
like,
it, which is so funny. Which
Yeah.
is just like, yeah, again, like he could have gone to him to begin with.
So Adam Sandler says, I need the rock back.
Yeah,
Because
he's
I'm going
like,
to sell it to
fine.
Kevin Garnett. I will sell. And now Judd Hirsch is like, you need to pay me back that money, but also you need to pay me a little bit more back because like this is insane. Like you owe me now a little bit of interest on this loan, this fucked up loan I've ended up doing. And he takes the rock. He gets roughed up by Arno's goons
There.
yet again.
Yeah. Neck gets popped, gets tossed in some water, gets his nose busted open.
yeah,
It's bad.
And so with
Loses
his
his glasses.
tail between his
That's
legs,
the nightmare, really.
yeah.
he stumbles back to his shop and all is lost. This is his lowest ebb.
Mm-hmm. He has the rock, though. They didn't take the rock from him.
But now it looks like shit when he unveils
God,
it, when
it's
it's
so
sitting
ugly.
there on his desk, and you're like, oh shit, that's just a rock.
yeah.
Like those facets that were positively glowing in those earlier scenes, they look dull, and most of what you see looks like this thing was busted out of just standard sedimentary rock,
Mhm.
basically. And he sends everyone home in despair. In walks Julia, and we get a great scene about their relationship. Julia wants to patch things up, and she has brought a little present to cheer him up.
Oh, yeah.
An ass tattoo.
It says Howie.
It says Howie.
It's
So,
so...
first they have a complete fucking mental breakdown at each other. Just at each
Right,
other.
yes.
Like he's at his lowest and she's there and he needs her, but he's still so upset. He needs to be cuddled. He needs to be in bed and be cuddled by her.
Totally.
But he won't let him. He has to first just get it all out, get the poison out. And like the thing he says,
He like won't even show his face to her.
yeah.
Ugh.
Because he's just he doesn't want to be seen by her
Yeah.
because he feels like he is so completely worthless and he needs her specifically to say, no, you're going to win still. You can still do it. And he's got like tissue in his nose and he says in this deeply Adam Sandler-y like tone of voice, what you did was not very nice to me. And it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And they make up when she's finally got the fucking Howie ass tattoo.
It's so, and the weird thing is,
Wholesome.
it's like
He's-
Gift of the Magi if everyone was just kind of a messy piece of shit.
Jersey
But-
Shore, Gift of the Magi.
Yeah. Got
It's
you.
great.
Well, we skipped over a scene at the Passover where he seemingly tries to patch things up with
Yeah.
his wife.
Yeah.
Which I feel like it's important to note there that that doesn't work out, obviously. And in this scene, I feel like part of the reason that he kind of patches things up with Julia is because she's the last one that
Oh,
will take
yeah.
him, right?
Yeah.
Like
Not
he
only
was
does it-
maybe even ready to move to actually try to patch things up, at least in his way.
Yeah.
For like 1
Well,
week, he would
yeah,
be okay at being
right.
a father, you know?
Right.
The specific thing about that attempt to patch things up with his wife also is that she just laughs at him.
Right.
Just completely sees through it.
Yeah.
Or does not believe it for a second and laughs at his attempt to be to be authentic in his affection.
What's interesting emotionally in that scene is that the movie had so firmly gotten me in his frame of mind and like point of view is that I knew she was right and it was like good that she wasn't falling for it,
Yeah.
but I still wanted her to be nice to him.
Right.
Like I really just wanted one person to be nice to him. But then you look back on the movie and he's been a piece of shit to every single person he's
Yeah.
ever met.
Yeah, no, he doesn't deserve that reconciliation. And for a moment, she has this look that, like, hey, maybe she does still care for him. And then you realize it's just amusement at the idea that he would even think this is still in
Yeah,
the cards.
Even viable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all things begin to come back together for Howie because right as Julia and he are patching things up, Kevin Garnett calls, interrupting several calls he's had. He's been harassing his representatives for days, trying to get the opal back. Kevin Garnett personally calls and is like, I'm coming in. And we get the final scene with Howie and Kevin Garnett, and I think it's kind of a pretty critical one for bring the themes of this movie together. Garnett comes with his $175K to buy this fucking rock. And as he's giving over the money to Howie, he's like, look, you already closed the deal. I'm not going to take my money back. Just let me know. How much do you actually pay for this thing? How much over what you paid? Did I just pay for this? And Howie hems and haws and finally reveals that what he paid for it was like $80,000.
$100K.
He says 100K.
100K?
That's what
It
he
is
says.
what he borrowed from Arno.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
I did not put that.
That is
string
what
together.
starts this whole
You're right.
fucking thing. Is he
Holy
borrows that
shit.
money to get the fucking
Right.
rock in the first place.
Which has taken 16 months or 17 months or
Right.
something.
Which is why they're to the point where
Mhm.
they're fucking roughing him up because he hasn't been able to pay it back because it's taken so long to get the fucking rock in the first place.
And Garnett hears that number and he's like, so you doubled your money. You doubled your money. And Howie is like, yeah, that's how this works. And Garnett is like, but those guys, how much of that money do you think those guys working in the mine actually get? Does that not seem fucked up to you that you're selling this for 175K and you only paid them like 100? And that's when Howie launches into he likens this relationship, this relationship of power and trade and like capitalist exploitation. He likens it to sports. And he turns to KG and he basically tries to do the "we're not so different, you and I" thing.
Yeah.
Because he's like, when you're up on a team, in a game, do you take your foot off their neck? No. And then he launches into, no, you fucking destroy them. You want to like rub their faces in it. And that's when he gets to that is how, and I'd also misread this from the trailer.
Yeah.
In the trailer, it comes across as almost bombastic.
Yeah.
This is how I win. This is how I'm doing it right now. In the scene, it's like, no, this is the way in which I live my life.
There's like
This
an
is how I
opening
win.
up of himself. Like, this is how I win.
And Garnett, like a lot of what makes being a good actor is like reacting to things and like how you react and listen.
Yeah.
And Garnett proves to be a great listener in that scene because you see several realizations sort of play across his face in that scene. One of them is the realization of how wild Howie is, of how just off, like how unhinged Howie is,
Well,
and
like-
how pathological he
And
is.
that is the opening question that when they sit down across from each other at the desk, he's like, Howie, what is up with you, man? Like, there is something else happening here out of sight from me. What is going on?
And Howie is so aroused by his speech that by the end of it, he's like, you're feeling it too, right? This is, and he is like, it is this like sexualized
Let's win
moment where he's
together.
like, he's like, let's do this together. And what he means by do this is let's get in some action together. You're going to fucking destroy Philly tonight.
Yeah.
And he starts writing up his bet for that night. And Garnett is like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Howie is just so fucking high on his own supply. In that moment, he just goes on an immediate another tear where he's like, I'm going to double this money that I just got.
Which we know he already called Arno at that point to say he had the money.
The
which is-
goons and Arno are
outside.
yeah, you see them
basically.
on the fucking CCTV as he's saying this to Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
that was another moment where I had to be. I was watching it with my boyfriend in bed, and I was like, "David, I gotta pause it. Like,
This is
I gotta
so
go to the
much.
bathroom.
It's
Like
so
this
much.
motherfucker, just pay off, use
Yeah.
the extra,
Yeah.
pay him off first. Pay him off first.
Right.
But instead doing that, Kato, what if instead Julia leans out the window in the adjoining office
Oh my god!
And they pass
and
the bag.
he passes the bag to her and
the
he's like,
baton.
I
booked
rented
you a
I booked you a
blade.
blade.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is a blade? Is that, do people in New York know what that is? Because I've never heard of it.
No, it's a helicopter.
It's a helicopter
to Mohegan
app.
Sun.
From Mohegan Sun to Connecticut, and
If you've ever been in Mohegan Sun, just the idea of taking a fucking helicopter
It's so
from
funny.
Queens to
Yeah.
to this
Mohegan
fucking
Sun
Cheesecake Factory casino.
is the most depressing place in the universe.
So she gets out of there with the money. Arno and his collection agents are just losing it.
Yeah.
Like, and this is when we realize his collection agents are furious at this point. They're done with this fucking guy. And Arno still wants to put limits on this. The collection agents throw Howie out the window and dangle him.
Yes, and this is one of the times you can see most clearly. Arno is like, okay, wait,
He's
wait,
afraid
wait,
of his
wait.
guys.
Wait, yeah, I'm not in control here. Please don't hurt him. Like, please don't actually toss him out the window. There are lines here, and he feels for Howie. He can tell Howie is.
I honestly still wonder what the relationship there is actually like. Like, are they his guys or?
That's badly hired muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my read.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of these things. These things, these are career criminals.
Right.
They're
here for money.
Yeah, he
Right.
got
And what
put in
gets them
touch
paid.
with them by some third party.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, I know some guys who could help you
He
with
knew
that.
another bookie who
Yeah.
was like, I've got some muscle
Yeah.
if you need to shake down your guy.
But also, they've reached the conclusion that Arno's a fucking wimp.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's not going to get them paid. So they're already starting to think, like, we just got to run this guy's business for him. We got to take care of this Howie Sitch.
Boy.
And so they're about to storm out, though. They're about to storm out and go nab Julia, I guess, before she can put in the money or like wait for it at the casino.
Right.
Or there've been implications, maybe there's threats to the family, but they get into the man trap to leave and it fails.
And you know, Howie's in that moment is just like, all right, good.
Yeah.
Bulletproof glass. You guys just going to have to sit tight for this game. It's okay. After the game, I'll let you out.
And it's like,
This is the moment where Eric Bogosian's acting is just so perfect and so beautiful.
Oh,
I think just the picture of despair.
it's this, I can't believe you've done this to us. Like, I can't believe this has happened. But also, here's the thing I love. Howie begins to just get into it as this game takes place. And as deep as the water is that he's in, he's alive.
Oh yeah.
He is at his most alive.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
This is the
Julia's
utility
feeling it
monsters
at Mohegan
scene. Yeah, 100%.
Sun, where like she's like living and dying with this game, and you know,
And
the opening
Arno is
tip-off,
living it.
That's you see, yes, Bogosian, as this thing begins to come into view, the long shot begins to come in. You see
The
him
tip goes
flip.
right. He's scoring. He's getting rebounds.
He starts paying more attention to that game
Yeah.
and starts like
It's
looking hopeful
incredible.
and almost admiring at
There
Howie.
is this befuddled joy on his
Oh, yeah.
face where he's just like, this motherfucker did it.
There are sometimes when you see a movie and you're like, this scene is the movie. Or this is the seed from which the movie sprouted. Someone had an idea for this situation. The situation of a loan shark and his hired goons stuck in a man trap watching their beleaguered, bettor watch a game inside of a shop all together, and the tension is through the roof. It's like, yeah, that is the movie. Everything builds so you can get to that amazing sequence.
Where you just get to live in his universe for a minute, where he always wins.
Yeah.
And it
all the
is-
ups and downs along the way, just microcosm, just like, yes, no, fuck off, that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that was the moment where I sort of understood, like, I'm sorry for bringing a Marxist reading to every single movie I watch,
please.
but like that was the moment I understood the sort of the class politics of this movie, where it's like, well, Howie is a man who's just bought into the instability of capitalism. He's bought into, he thinks it's a feature, not a flaw. And he loves it. He's decided he loves it because that's the only way you can like sleep at night, if you decide that the struggle is part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves every single second of not knowing if he's going to make it, with the guarantee, which in his mind, of that he'll always make it in the end.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you can live. That's the kind of person who could thrive in this system, is someone who's just fucking psychotic, fucking out of control.
And
Yeah.
the bet goes good. He wins the bet.
And Arno is overjoyed,
Yeah.
and he's
They
like,
all
all
made
right,
a lot
I
of
did it.
money.
He buzzes them out. He finally lets them out of the man trap. And the head goon, he's like, you did it. And then pulls out a 38 and
Yeah.
shoots him through the face.
Yeah.
And kills him. And Arno is horrified. And they start busting up the jewelry shop and just
And
start looting it.
snatching shit, which can't be worth that much,
No.
honestly.
Compared to the bet he had, he
Well-
made over $1 million.
Yeah, they're going to try to fence that, but
Good
there's
luck.
2 dead people in a Diamond District jewelry. Like, they're
Yeah.
going to jail.
Oh,
like, this is
We know there's CCTV.
Yeah.
It's
We know
also, it's
people
not like
know.
Howie is the kind of man to explicitly document everything that went in and out of the store, every single gem and jewel, like,
Mhm.
and like know the worth of it, have it written down on the books, have it all appraised.
This is their pride play. This
Right.
is their
Yeah.
like, he bested them,
Yeah.
and they've been humiliated and they've been fucked with, and so they are also now on a terminal dive of a career of their criminal career path,
Yeah.
which is, we fucked up at being hired muscle, we fucked up our payday, but man, we made that guy fucking pay for it.
Yeah.
Now we're about to get busted for a murder beef. Might as well do 2. So
Yeah.
they
Pick up
shoot
another one.
they shoot Arno as he tries to escape. And And
because
then they
Arno demonstrates immediately that he's not cool with it.
Yeah.
You get
He's
the sense that
horrified.
if Arno could keep his cool, he probably would have made it out of there alive.
Yeah.
Not with like much longer to live, I think, but alive for the time being.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but the moment they realize he's not an accomplice to this at all,
Yeah.
then they shoot him too and continue looting.
And then you
Um,
see Julia,
with the
who-
money.
who's had her own little adventure in
we
Mohegan
skipped over
Sun.
some stuff here
So
with the
there's
rich
this
guy.
she meets
Who
immediately.
Who is
This
that?
Old guy.
He's
Just
a
a
re-
guy that they met.
No, like I know the actor. Like who?
He's
is
not an
that?
actor. He is Wayne Diamond,
That's what I thought.
who is a New York like diamond guy, I believe. This says Garment District legend Wayne Diamond sparkles in Uncut Gems.
Great.
That's just him. Like here's a photo of him.
I love him.
Oh, he's beautiful.
He's beautiful. He's a beautiful man.
And
They
like,
meet on the
he's-
blade.
He's
I mean-
clearly trying to fuck her. And she's playing that because she sort of understands also
But
she's
it's
got
fine
a lot
if
of
it doesn't
money in her
work.
bag. Like, you know?
He takes his shots.
He takes
Yeah.
his shots. He's
No,
like,
he-
I bought the chef. The chef is coming up tonight.
He like doesn't care whether or not he fucks her, but he's happy to have a young woman around to impress. And like if it goes his way, he'll be happy with that too. But if not, you know, he helped out a pretty lady. She's always going to be nice to him now.
Well, we see that shot of like Howie's family, his wife being like, I'm actually really worried. Like he get like weird phone call came in, like something is not right. And you realize the amount of people who are going to be devastated in some way by the scale of this fuck up. Like these people that he'd alienated, but still on some level cared a little bit for him.
But also just the juxtaposition of Howie's end to Damani to then Julia is like, those are three people who are living their lives from scam to scam.
Yep.
You know, and like for these three people, how many other opportunities do they actually have though to survive in a system that's so unfair?
Yeah.
You live or die by the scam. Like that's it.
Well, yes, but I also feel like
Damani
this is,
was also scamming Howie.
Yeah.
And you could tell that he was like, this shit with The Weeknd and with Kevin Garnett, that was his step up into
Yeah.
bigger and bigger scams.
Right.
And like Julia's existence, she understands is a scam. She's very aware of that.
You mentioning Julia's existence and her scamminess. Just this quote from Wayne Diamond. Page 6 asked Wayne Diamond if his time as a dressmaker prepared him for Hollywood, and he said, "Go sell fucking dresses. If you're a salesman and you're not a good actor, you're not making a lot of money because you're not going to be selling a lot of dresses. It's all, you're gorgeous. I love you so much. Let's go out for a drink. I'll fuck you just so you write me an order. My whole life was that until I became someone. I could be in an Academy Award-winning movie. Fuck you. Your odds are 1,000,000,000 to 1 of being in an Academy Award-winning movie."
Yeah.
Great quote.
In the
That's
in
awesome.
the
He's just, and
Safdie,
that's just him.
That's him.
He's just
That's
in
how
this
he
movie.
wins.
This is how he wins.
the Safdie brothers interview with on Chapo, they were talking about Wayne Diamond, and they said they were trying to get him. There's a scene where Julie's in the hotel room because she recognizes she has a lot of money in her bag, and people can tell her bet's going well, so she doesn't want to attract attention. So he's like, "Oh, come up to my room," and she's like, immediately like, "Yes, like this will be a space away from prying eyes, and I can handle this guy." Blah blah blah. So he's in the bathroom taking a shower, and he's just got a towel on, and you can tell he's shooting his shot, but she's not going for it. And the softies were like, "We originally wanted to have him naked because we were like, okay, you're the guy trying to cross the line. You're like the prototypical Me Too guy that is trying to make things inappropriate with this woman by being naked in the bathroom, having the door open."
Yeah.
And Wayne Diamond is like, "You know what? It's not about being naked. I look amazing naked. I look the best naked. But you know what? I look way better in a towel."
He's a wild
It's-
thing. So yeah, payout hits.
I think there's an element of Howie isn't just in the capitalist system, but in some ways his logic is that of the capitalist system. He
Yeah.
embodies it, right? I think this is why the return on investment thing is so critical.
Yeah.
He has a successful business. Like, yes, it is founded on exploitation of like faraway distant people, but he's part of a community of businessmen in the same line of work. The margins are not amazing, like in terms of what he does probably, but they're good enough to live prosperously. He's part of a well-to-do family. There's probably a lot of generational wealth passing through their hands. And also like he has made, if he just sticks to his original play, which is he's made a long shot bet on getting this gem. If he just sticks to that play and just auctions that thing, this all goes pretty
Totally.
well. But
Goes to his father-in-law, says, "Hey,
Yeah.
your son, I'm into your son for $100,000. It's
Yeah.
about this fucking opal. It's going up on auction on Monday. Can you can you tell him to just like chill, give him his money. I'll pay you back with interest. I'll give you, a nice chunk of this. This is going to sell for $1 million. I'll cut you in for an extra 50, 60.
And if he had not tried to turn it into a ridiculous, over-the-top thing,
but that's the nature.
would have gotten it, yeah.
The nature of modern financial capitalism is to seek higher and higher returns past the point of anything that's sustainable or sensible. Like the fundamentals of a business, once a business is mature, right? Like growth is pretty linear and it's slight, right? That's the nature of most healthy, sustainable businesses. You can make a good living on it, but you're not going to suddenly jump several categories in terms of like wealth. But Howie lives his life by like seeking those like wild swings in fortune that can just like carry him all the way to the top. For him, it's gambling. That's how he chooses to do this. But I think there's an element of like Howie's an actor within the system, but in some ways, I think also his logic embodies the nature of modern capitalism in that, no, it's not enough that we all live reasonably well off together with boring, predictable stability and returns. The only thing that brings me joy is if I pull all of you into this wildly irresponsible risk that I want to make for the sake of 100%, 200, 600% return. And if I can't have that, then I'll burn the entire thing down.
I think ending the movie on Howie's death and the shot where it like gets real close to his face and then goes into it, and you see the same cosmos through the bullet wound. But beginning with that scene at the mines with that guy with the fracture really like put it all under this like it is about the violence surrounding the capitalist system and the violence that the capitalist system enacts on people trying to survive within it. And the way that he embodies that also is about how that violence isn't always physical, also emotional, right? Like the ways that he completely like fucks with everyone that he's connected with, and it's all at the service of, like you were saying, that. So it's like this whole like they bookended it on these two moments of violence, and I feel like that really like kind of puts that theme, like, it comes full circle.
Over here, it's the drug trade. We die for drugs. Right. Over there, they die from what we buy from drugs.
God. The
diamonds.
Wow.
The bracelets, the necklets.
Perfect. You can listen to
the charms.
One song pod.
Pull up your pants.
Listen.
It's because you be on that phone.
It's 'cause you be on that phone. Shout outs to when Kanye wasn't the worst person.
Yeah. Honestly.
It's been my favorite thing to say recently. There was that, in the New York Times endorsement thing for, blah, 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 blah. When, what's his name? Cory Booker, Mr. Rosario Dawson said that, he told that really long story about going to that funeral, and it was super, super, super heartfelt. But then the moral he took from it was essentially, it's because you be on that phone. I just started laughing out loud. Anyway, this movie is so much more complex than something simplistic than that. I think it does come back to themes of capitalism, but this is it's about money as much as it is about success. It's a really empiric idea of success that we've internalized in American culture. And it's about not just wealth as in capital, but the things that we use to display our wealth. This being a hype beast ass store is very important to this plot as well. It's ostentatious. It's about having new money, not about the classiness of old money. Howie's, family house and everything that displays his wealth, not important to him. Not important to him. What's important to him is getting a big hit now.
Yeah. It's definitely also, connecting the two things of more wealth does equal some sort of sense of power or even not. And there's this really important line from Kevin Garnett in that scene where he's bringing back, or he's buying, when he's finally buying the opal. He says, I didn't have to bring this back. It's he's in a position of power where he's making this purchase, but he has this feeling of being such a celebrity that he thinks that he could have just held on to that rock, even though
it doesn't matter to him that he doesn't get his ring back.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered to him. It wouldn't have mattered to him at all.
Listen, that rock was magic, so, and he had a great game.
He wasn't wrong.
They won that series.
Somehow he was not wrong.
Well, because like he's a man looking for self-belief. Like, and I love that character. Like,
God, that interview too, which is is that the real interview from that day?
I assumed was shot after the fact.
Yeah.
That like, there's no way.
It's so perfect.
Yeah.
But there's no way.
I mean, it's a
Shit.
thing. I feel like that's a thing you see, and there's like, oh, we're gonna take that, right? Like, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I know based on the interview and the Chapo Pod that Kevin Garnett was not the original choice.
Okay.
It was almost
Really?
Kobe Bryant for a second, and they talked about this they talked about how Kobe heard about it, wanted to do it, and then they had to like rewrite the script with him in it, and it took a week. And then once they got the script back to him, they were like, "Oh, Kobe doesn't want to do it anymore."
Mhm.
And they were just like, so that to us just speaks to like the level of wealth you can get to where you forget what work is, where you forget that like a human being has to do work and then get it back to you, and you can't just lose interest in between. But it was originally a black Jewish basketball player that I forget the name of that I thought about when I was listening to the pod and thought, I'm not going to forget this. And then immediately forgot. I'm going to try to look it up. But that was the original choice because I wanted to have the Ethiopian Jew thing like be tied to it. And then it was the next one was a basketball player from Africa because they wanted to have the African thing tied into it. And it ended up being Kevin Garnett because they're both big Knicks fans and they hate the Celtics. They hate Garnett in particular. But they're like, he loves wrestling and he's an amazing heel.
True.
Yeah. And
Fair.
like you can see like Kevin Garnett absorbing the energy of being the antagonist in that movie and like really understanding how to be hateable. And like that comes from wrestling, which is amazing to me.
It's a beautiful performance.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to expect from this movie. I do think it ends up being one of the most compelling movies of last year. Like I could not figure out for the life of me. I thought it was a crime story, which it is ultimately, but I did not expect sort of the heightened tragedy of capitalist masculinity that we ended up getting in this film. It was. I'm also not sure. Maybe I'd enjoy it more a second time now that I know how all these threads play out. I also
very
found
glad
it one
that
of
I
the most
had
exhausting experiences.
I'm very glad I had that knowledge going into it that it was going to be such like a mile a minute film because I was able to like get ready for it, prep myself, sustain through the first hour, and it was really the last like 30 minutes that were really trying. But
I didn't know how I was going to find another gear. I was like, surely we've seen the most intense this movie can be.
No.
And we've been winding this down. No.
It was like it's hard. I am rarely like shocked or elated in a movie theater. I don't really respond to spectacle anymore. I've like hit my max on that where it's just like, just give me one sort of moment that is so funny to me or so unique to me that I'll remember it forever. This movie is entirely that moment. And it is incredible to experience. I really want to see it again, knowing what I'm getting into so that maybe I don't have an anxiety attack multiple times through the movie. But I have not seen anything with so much spirit in a very, very long time. I think the only movie that I liked as much from last year was Parasite. Yeah, I think those are the two movies that really made me excited about movies.
Austin, where did you
same place
emotionally?
basically.
Yeah.
I mean I think my final like takeaway in terms of like where am I placing this in my own like list of films I've liked from recent years is that I almost like it more as a piece than a film. Do you know what I mean? In a very maybe appropriate analogy, it's like a thing I want to look at a distance, like a beautiful gem or like a work that I'm like, wow, this is hitting me a certain way. This is really beautiful. This is really like overwhelming. This is really stressful. This has like all of these sensual experiences with it. I don't know that I love it the way I love other crime capers or even other things that get to this speed eventually. You mentioned something like Goodfellas' Final Act. I think some of the Coen brothers movies get there eventually. I think that's to some degree is just a personal bias towards characters I can fundamentally still connect to. and root for. I think it's super well done that they brought me in as much as they did there, and it's a very tragic ending, and I did want it to work out in the end for him, but I want a little that opening hurdle of like, man, this guy fucking sucks is difficult, but that doesn't make it a bad film. It doesn't make it a film that it doesn't quite hit my top level.
Kato, you did not miss a trick in this movie. So I think you clearly had the best understanding of the plot
I
of
also
anyone
just
here.
recently I watched it last night. So
Yeah, so
that
it's
helps a
fresh
lot.
on the mind. It's like getting punched in the head, so
Yeah.
it's like really easy to remember immediately after
I
it
definitely
happens.
feel like I didn't get to sleep as quickly as I normally do.
I didn't sleep that night at all.
Just like
I finished that. I was like, I got to fly in 3.5 hours. So I'm just gonna roll through. I'll take the dog out, and that'll take an hour, and then what's the fucking point? But Kato, emotionally coming out of this film, where do you land with it?
I mean, yeah, I think it is like Ida was saying. Actually, it's just like something that it takes a lot to truly get a felt reaction rather than a thought reaction. Nowadays, I feel like I can analyze something as it's happening, and like I start thinking of plot, and I start thinking of like, oh well, this is obviously where this is gonna go because I've seen this sort of thing before. Like I like try to like guess a little bit about like, oh, he's probably gonna fail the last one. That's how it all fucks up in the end. Is like that bet's gonna go wrong. Like I didn't have time to think about that. Watching this movie, like it was so in like it's like it was like watching a slow motion car wreck. Like you can't look away.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it also did have all of the trappings of like when you think back on it, like the there was still things to chew on after the fact, and that I feel like is like a thing that a lot of movies like can't. It feels like things will try to fall one way or the other, and like they don't either they don't really elicit strong emotional reactions, or they don't have a lot of substance after the fact to like really chew on. And I feel like this movie kind of has both, and it was like, yeah.
I'd say I don't have a lot of time to see movies in theaters, so I was sad I didn't get to see this one in theaters. But like the last movie I saw in theaters before Parasite was like Avengers Endgame, and like the big death at the end of that movie. I did cry, but I also like knew exactly how I was being manipulated.
Yep.
And like that really bugged me out.
You can see all the strings.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. You just like, I know this is the scene where I'm supposed to cry.
Yeah.
So my body is having that reaction.
Right.
But I don't know if I actually feel sad. This one made my body react in really extreme ways.
Yeah.
And that's just incredible filmmaking.
Patrick, your final thoughts?
I am hungry to the point of deliriousness. I liked the movie.
Cool.
I watched it like a half hour ago, just like sat
I start to feel
laptop.
sick at a point that I am hungry, so I just kind of
go
checked
get
out of the podcast.
We're
we need
gonna
to take
get
this
you
man to a
food.
burger ASAP.
I just want to say, I think it is The Interview.
What?
I think. This is.
Series win. Anytime you win, that's all the satisfaction you need, really. But in order for us to win, man, we gotta make defensive stances. We gotta.
Maybe it isn't.
We gotta put defensive stops together.
No.
Those interviews are never as quick
Ray's no different from that.
as like
Yeah.
succinct as it is in the movie.
Yeah.
And they're also always boring. They never say anything interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to think they
That
took that
first
footage
bit
and
feels
overdubbed
right,
it.
though. That
Yeah.
first bit that was like, nothing is as good as when you win, feels accurate.
I bet they took that and then overdubbed
Yeah.
a little
Well,
bit of it.
We have to take Patrick
To get food.
to get
We gotta
food.
feed Patrick.
Our beautiful boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love him.
Yeah, look, we knew what it is. We knew what this is going in. We got to take care of Patrick.
Patrick about to eat a burger. This is how
I had a burger
win.
last night at Bernie's.
Yeah.
Oh. You were hanging out with Bernie?
Yeah,
What?
me and Bernie and
Damn.
Rob.
You went to Bernie's house?
So if Iowa didn't go well, it's because Patrick was like, I want to get a burger.
If Iowa didn't go well, this is how Bernie can still win.
Yeah. So that will do it for Uncut Gems, which I guess you can watch on Netflix.
Yeah, I
believe
like
so, yeah.
immediately.
You fucking should.
Yeah.
Good.
Um,
It's real good.
So our thanks to Too Mellow for the track Slide Asleep off the album After Midnight. You can find that at twomellowmakes.bandcamp.com. You can keep up with all of us at waypoint.vice.com. I'm Rob Zachney. You can find me on Twitter at Rob Zachney. Kato, where can people find you?
At A_Kato_appears.
Gita.
XOXO Gossip Gita.
Patrick.
At Patrick Lubbock.
Austin.
At Austin_Walker.
That will do it for this week's Waypoints. We hope you've enjoyed the break. Please be sure to rate and review us on your podcast platform of choice, if it allows such a thing. I like to think we're a 5-star podcast, and certainly we make Patrick suffer so we can give you those 5-star run times. So I think you owe us this one. But
Jeez.
I'm not.
Wow.
But I'm not going to like say that you. Okay, yes, I did.
Yeah,
just
you
say
did.
That. Yeah.
If you made it this far,
We have
you
way
owe it
more
to us.
Patrick
listeners.
is-
We have way more listeners than we do
Reviews. 5-star reviews.
And that's on you. That's not on us.
I can't do
Wait,
anything
me?
but
You're looking
this.
at me.
No, I'm
the listener.
speaking to the listener.
Not me.
Patrick
Us.
is starving
Right.
for 5-star
We
reviews
can't do gags.
and actual food.
We can't do gags or Patrick's gonna die.
All right. Anyway, we will be back again with Waypoint Radio on Monday. Until then, podcasting is how we win.
Well,
Well,
We're keeping that
we
well
had
in
an
there.
executive tell us
Yeah.
that once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the teacher's like, this makes no sense. How are you like nearly failing this class and you set the highest score in the exam? And I was like, the homework's boring, but like this is all just relationships and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But did you
I
not
got
do
that with
homework?
SATs.
not.
I learned how to just read the test to understand what it was asking of me.
Yeah.
And I ended up only getting one question wrong on verbal and like passing the math, which was more than I thought I was going to do. Because I could just suddenly like read the question and understand this is a logic puzzle. This isn't actually testing me on what I know and testing me on whether or not I can read this question correctly.
Yep.
And, you know, like it goes a long way. It goes a really long way. I did very well in standardized tests because I figured that out really, really early. And my parents thought I was going to go to Yale. And so, but they never told me that because I scored really, really well in a standardized test in like 3rd grade. And they're like, oh, we don't want to get her to get conceited, but we're going to push her really hard so she can go to Ivy League school. So I just thought they hated me. You know? I just thought they thought I sucked.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right. We recording, Kata?
Ask Steve.
Steve, are we recording?
Awesome.
Thank you, Steve.
Perfect.